Good morning. This is Dale Fye, and I am the president of the Access Users Group Eastern Time chapter, which meets at 9 o'clock Eastern Time on the third Friday of every month. This morning, we're going to have a presentation by Philipp Steifel. Is it Steifel or Stiefel?
Stiefel.
Stiefel. My German is not very good anymore. And he's going to talk to us about the ADT Find and Replace tool. And I'm going to stop sharing now. And Philip, you can take control.
Yeah, thank you. Before I start sharing, I'd like to introduce myself quickly. I'm Philipp Stiefel from Germany, and I'm a long-time Access developer for more than 20 years now, and I'm mostly working with Access and SQL Server, and recently developed a couple of developer tools for Access, like not in Access itself, but tools that help developers. And one of those is what I'll show you today. It's Find and Replace for Microsoft Access. And sometimes I see, maybe I can start my screen and I'll just add that into the conversation. So, great. So this is my Access screen here. And you see here's a new tab in the Access ribbon, AccessDevTools. And there are a couple of buttons here, 3 only. And if I click on the Find button, then it will bring up a dialog. That's basically a Find and Replace dialog. And that is the main dialog you are going to see of our tool. And you can just enter something here. And I'm working in the box standard, almost box standard Northwind database. So there shouldn't be unexpected stuff coming up inside the database. Now I just click on Find Next, and then it will bring up a list in the background, and it bring up a find result, which kind of says, okay, I found stuff in a table. The table is inventory, transactions, and I found the table field, and the element name is purchase order ID, and then the lower to the name is basically in which property was something found, and the marked bit here in red is the bit of the term that's actually found. There's a bit of redundancy for this particular match, but there will be other matches where the element type and element name will be different from the match. So this has a purpose here. And then I could go find next, find next, find next, and click through all the results like the Find and Replace thing in the VBA environment does, or the Find and Replace in the Access table data. So you get one result and go to the next. But I actually absolutely hate this experience. We just implemented it for completeness sake. What I always do, and you can always say that right from the start, but you can escalate from here to find all. And now the list is flickering a lot because it's updated all the time with new matches. And you see the scroll bar getting smaller and smaller because there are more results all the time. And it's taking a little while here because there are so many hits, but I'll do the same with another search term in a minute, where there are not like hundreds of matches in the database, but you see it's finding lots and lots of stuff. And it's actually, I don't know why, it's actually working quite slow at the moment. I'm not sure what I'm doing on my computer because I just booted it. Maybe it's installing updates in the background and busy otherwise, because usually it would be a lot faster than what you see here.
I find that WebEx does tend to cause some slowness in my apps when I'm demoing them as well.
Oh, okay. That would be an explanation if WebEx is doing something in the background here to slowing things down. I'm also presenting on my fairly old laptop computer, which is, I think, 5 or 6 years old now, but I usually, I'm quite happy with it and I don't need to buy a new one, but it's not the most powerful machine. So it finished, and you see there are a lot of results if you look for order in the Northwind database. And I can just pick any result here, like this one is for a form in a combo box, and it found the search term in the SQL value. And I can just double click this, and it will open the form right away. And I can right here open the property sheet, and it already selected the supplier IDs combo box. And there in the row source is our match somewhere. Oh, and I have been, the Zoom window is totally out of whack here for whatever reason, but let's not bother by that. And I have been a little bit stupid actually, because I was searching for order, and I meant to search for orders. So I missed the S at the end, and so in Access it's finding tons of stuff because of the order by clause. And this result list stays open in the background until you close it. So that is very handy. You can inspect one of the results. You can also do a quick show details that will open up a window of find and replace and highlighting the found location inside there. That is the quick option. Or as I showed it, you can double click it and open the form, report, whatever it is right away. And that is configurable actually. You can decide what you want to want as your default action for a double click. So we go through all the stuff in here, forms, reports, and also, oh, hang on a second, also macros, they are also included. And we also search the VBA code. And if you double click there, takes a second because it's opening the VBA environment. And I'm not sure if you actually see that. Maybe I should quickly...
Yeah, we can see that.
You can see that?
Yes.
Oh, great. That is great. Then we leave it there. And there's not much what I intended to show here at the moment. Not only just, it also opens the VBA environment, and it jumps to the location I was clicking, and I didn't really pay attention. Let's say we've got this module here, purchase orders, and the subfunction create line item. And if I double click that, you see it has actually selected the function definition where the term was found. So that is all included in that list. And just as a short side note, I sometimes encounter forum discussions or on whatever comments on YouTube or wherever, where people show up and say, oh yeah, we can easily build that, and it's no need to buy a tool. You can build that in an hour or two. And I have to say that is utter rubbish. Of course, you can write a quick loop to cycle through form and report properties, and you probably can do that in an hour. But, well, if you want a real find and replace tool that does all the stuff that this tool is doing, you're not looking at an hour of work, but rather a month or so. And there are lots and lots of like properties in Access you cannot easily search. For example, I haven't checked if there is something like that in the Northwind database, but we also look in the format conditions for conditional formatting of a form. And I don't even know how to do that, because that's not really trivial to do that. Well, sure, you can loop through all that, but it's taking forever, usually, if you want to go down the route like I cycle through all the properties. And the lead developer of the project has found a way to do that really, really quickly. And that is amazing. And there's no way you can do that in a couple of hours. So back to the main dialogue. There's a lot of stuff you don't see at first glance. And I've quickly changed that to look for orders. And usually we look in the current database, which includes basically everything. But we can also open a form like that is a query. I want to go to a form like customer details. Doesn't really matter. And I close that. And now I can select active objects, and I want to just search in the open forms, and if I hit find all, then it will only search through the open form that you've seen here in the background, but including all its subforms. I absolutely love that, because that gives you a context of the whole form, including all the stuff that's going on in a subform. If you reference a subform field from the main form or vice versa, it will find that and will put it in the result list regardless. And that is super helpful, actually.
Philip, is there a search history feature? I didn't notice it when I was looking through stuff.
Well, there is a search history feature. Like in this drop down, I see all the terms I searched for recently. And what you also can do is say the result options.
There we go.
It defaults to show in list only, but you can say, yeah, I want to save it to a database. And I go here and say find all. And then I go up here to the tables, and it will then create that ADT far log table. And this, let me put that a little bit out of the way. This also includes the exact same search results as you see in our result list form. And they will persist. You can search for 10 different forms, for 10 different terms, and they will end up all in that result list.
So they'll all end up in that same table, or not? No. It looks like that table has a date timestamp on it. So
yeah. It has a date timestamp on it. If I now look for like order details and switch back like to all forms and say find all. Oh, it didn't find anything. Oh, yeah, because I said order details. So now it's finding stuff. Yeah, that is a message because I've got a window, one of the forms open in design view, then can't search it. And now it created another table here with the other results in here. So this one's the new result list, but it's basically it stays there. If you create lots of searches, it will be, well, not ideal because you got lots and lots of those temp tables. But on the other hand, you usually want to keep them forever. So after a short while, you would go and just delete them if you don't need them any longer. So
just I like that. I like that technique of storing it in the tables. It'd be nice if the table name contained. The table name contained the search criteria. It doesn't look like it does at this point. But I know in the past, and we were talking earlier about Rick Fisher's find and replace. One of the things I've needed to do on many occasions is find places where two different terms showed up in the same form or in the same module or whatever. And so this feature will make that relatively easy, because then we can just join those search tables on the object name and filter on that to identify where two different terms showed up in the same table. That'll be interesting. Philip, we may have lost you. I think we did lose him. Okay, while we're waiting for Philip to join us again, hopefully he'll be able to get back in. Does anybody have any questions so far about his find and replace tool, or other questions that you would like me to ask him when he gets back online?
I have a question.
Ah, there he comes back in.
Yeah, sorry about that. My WebEx crashed here, and I don't know. It's kind of hung in the background, and I'm not really sure if I still sharing stuff. I still see the previous session, the information I'm sharing Microsoft Access, but it's not responding. I hope it's possible to share something again here. So,
looks like it's working. There we go.
Okay, great.
While you were away, Philip, what I was mentioning was in the past when I've used find and replace, the Rick Fisher's find and replace, I've frequently had the need to search for multiple terms, and I've basically done two separate searches and then filtered the result set, which is kind of sometimes a challenge. But this feature of storing each search in a separate table has some utility to it from my perspective, because then all I have to do is I can bring both of those tables into a query, join them on the object name and object type, and then I can see all of the things that relate to one another possibly. So that will make some of that easier from my perspective. How do you actually implement the replace feature?
I can't say anything about the details of the replace, but if you look at it from a user perspective, then you can just use either the tiny link here at the bottom of the form and switch to replace. And just let's assume we want to translate that to German, and I would translate that to Bestellung details, and that's what basically the same term in German is. And I would just go ahead and say, yeah, replace that. And I get a warning message, and I say, okay, and I will still get the result list, and then it will show me all the stuff that is actually replaced here. And that is also working pretty fast. I limited that to forms, and of course, I totally messed up the Northwind database now by just replacing it in the forms. And you can still, it doesn't make too much sense to double click here, but if you show the replace, then you will see what actually has been changed here. And that was a query, one of those 10 queries in the, well, actually, I've got no idea what that is here. That's some stuff Access created for whatever reason. I don't even know what that is. But anyway, we replace the term there.
So does the replace next button then, does that just basically pull up that and do the search and pull up that little individual form for each iteration, and then you can either execute the replace or
yes,
reject it,
exactly.
or
if I go to all reports, because there are still matches, then I say replace next, and it didn't find anything. Maybe because there isn't anything in the reports. Here we go. That found something. Now you got the single result, and you can look at the result and say, yeah, okay, I want to replace that, or you can decide not to replace it and just go find next to the next result, or you can say, okay, this does not make sense. I cancel the replace process altogether.
Do And I know I'm stepping all over your demo, so I'm sorry about that. But
No.
I just
You're
had lots of.
absolutely welcome. Step all over because
I
I
just
have
had lots
done
of questions.
the standard demo a couple of times. So interrupt me whenever you like and ask good questions. And I really like it. Go ahead.
When you do the let's go ahead and click on Find Next again, or Replace Next again.
Yeah, I close the result list and start with Replace Next. So here we go.
So if you're searching in a query, for example, and you've got a long query, do those property value controls and the replace with controls, do those increase in size based on the text, or are they just a one-liner like this?
I think they increase in size, but let's just find out. Here we go.
Yeah, there we go.
They are bigger, but I admit it would be nice if the whole form would be resizable and then also resize these text boxes, because now we've got 5 lines, but it's a little bit on the small side for a full SQL string of a query. So we originally released the tool like beginning. Oh, let's cancel that. We released it beginning of this year, and we already provided a slightly bigger than usual update in a couple of weeks ago. It's already available. And there are a couple of really nice features, and I'm going to, let's reverse that stuff here. I go back to find only, and I look for my German term in all the forms, because maybe that was not the best idea, replacing all that. Oh, and I did the singular of that. And this is really good if you want to get an overview over the stuff in your database. And I'm a really lazy person. I usually just enter the search term and hit enter without really thinking about what I'm actually looking for beyond the raw term. Because it's so cool if you got this list and you can easily resize that. And then you can go in the result list and say, okay, I'm not really interested in these macro thingies, and I say it does not contain. Now let's go to text filter. It does not contain macro, and then these get removed from the results, and then I can say, oh, okay, I'm not really interested in tags, and filter down this result list. And then you can say, okay, now that is the stuff I'm really interested in, and I now want to replace the stuff only in these results. And now you can go ahead and say replace all in the result list. And yes, now I say, okay, I change that back to the English term and hit replace all. And now it's I broke the database. Now it's complaining about the subforms I renamed, which are not there anymore. That was not the brightest idea to rename anything to German, but mostly it worked and has renamed the stuff back only in the results I had in that list. And that is so helpful. I absolutely love it. And you can also filter that using regular expressions. I'm not going to show that because whenever I write regular expressions, it will cause some sort of disaster. So I'm not going to show a demo, but it works. If I can find a tutorial teaching in regular expressions and I manage to type them correctly, it does work. So maybe one more thing I'd like to show you, but actually I have forgotten what it was. Oh yes, of course. We've got a huge thing to kind of customize your search. In this form, might be a little bit small on the screen, you can decide where you actually want to search in. I can say, okay, ignore all tables, ignore all forms, ignore the modules, ignore macros and queries, and now I want only to search in some very select reports, and then I say, okay, the customer, staff, employee, I don't want to search in these, but I want to search in suppliers and these reports, and I can go down to basically the report level, like where are we? In a report. Basically in the main report thing, and I can go down to certain properties of the report, and you see if I uncheck this checkbox, it will uncheck all the controls. So I can go to the record source of the report, and now I've narrowed down that I'm only searching in a couple of reports and only in their record source, and I can now go ahead and click that and save that as a preset, and I call that report record source, and save that. And these buttons are a little bit off. That is because I'm using screen scaling to 125% or 150. That's something we're going to fix soon. Now I select that, and well, I should change the term and say find all, and now it's only looking in these few reports and only in their record source, and these are the results. And now I can just go away for however long I want, open up that and go back to my custom settings and select my report record source preset, and immediately all the settings here are switched back to what I saved there, and I can go ahead and use that custom preset to search all the database again. Well,
So let me make sure I understand that, Philip, just to make sure. So when you go to the custom setup, basically
yes.
you can name each custom setup, and then that drop down in the bottom allows you to recall various custom setups. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. That is correct. You can always go ahead and select something here right away and say select, and it will take these custom settings. But if you are pretty sure you are going to need stuff repeatedly, like this one, search record source and row source, and then it will select some stuff like here, the combo box and list box controls, and I need to go to this, and it has the record source and row source properties pre-selected, because that's something that I need quite frequently if I want to change like table names or query names. And if you look at forms and reports, that's usually where you need to look at the SQL statements in the list boxes, row source, combo boxes, and the form record stuff. So that's basically
I like that feature.
Yeah, it's super helpful. I myself use it not enough, because I don't think of saving it unless I'm doing a demo and have a list of features I want to show. In my daily work, I often forget to save it, but it's still a lifesaver for stuff that I actually use a lot. So I'm basically at the end of my presentation here. So I'm very open for questions, but as far as what I wanted to show you, I'm done here. And thank you very much for your attention, but I'm open for questions.
I know somebody had a question earlier.
Yeah, just because nobody is talking, just you asked while Phil was away about the possibility or missing possibility to save the name of the logs with the finding string in. And I find it a good idea, but I only wrote in the chat good idea, not that I would like to have the find string in the table name of the log.
Oh yeah, that is actually a good idea, and I'll put. I've got a small notebook here on the side. Yeah, it might be a little bit problematic because the search term might contain stuff that's not really suitable for a table name, but we can probably work around that by replacing the totally offensive stuff with underscores. So
yeah, it was not my idea, but I find it so good that I wanted to be sure that it's not lost.
When you
thank you very much, Klaus. I like the idea as well, and I will definitely log that as a feature.
When you open one of those saved tables, Philip, does the search string show up as a field in there?
Pardon? I'm not sure if I understood the question.
If you open one of those tables, the saved tables.
No.
I'm just looking to see if the search string shows up in there.
No, not really. You can kind of infer it from the found values, but if it's not really sure, I could have searched only for a part of that, so it doesn't show up here. That would be a really useful enhancement, I think.
Yeah, I would. It's one of those things that is in Rick Fisher's Find and Replace. Is like the first record in every search basically says, the property says searched for, and then in the found value or some other field there, it lists the search string.
Yes, that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
Klaus, can you mute your microphone, please? You're causing feedback noise. Thank you.
Yeah, so either that or like Klaus had said, where I had mentioned it earlier, when you got disconnected, with putting that name in the name of the table. Obviously, when you start having you're trying to replace, object details or a longer string of text, it could become problematic with the length of the table name, in addition to the issues of if you're searching for a quote or a single quote, something like that would, as you said, be problematic, but could be addressed in a number of different ways. But so far, I really I missed, when I was playing with it the other day, I missed the result options for save to database, and that was the piece that was really bugging me, as I didn't have any way to do that. But this feature makes it, a whole lot simpler for me to actually go out and search for stuff. Obviously, I'm then going to have to go back and work through things. But the other advantage that I really like about this is that in your search results, not in the table itself, but in that list, being able to double click on it and have that take you directly to the code is a huge huge advantage that doesn't exist in the Rick Fisher version of his Find and Replace either. So I'm really looking forward to starting to use this, and now that I've had a demo of it and see exactly what. And I know you've got at least one video. If you could, on Find and Replace, if you could go ahead and enter in the chat the where those videos are located, then I can post that on my on the Access User Group website as well, with regard to this briefing, and the video we'll have of this later on.
Yes, sure. I'll post the link into the chat to our website, and in a second I will also, when I find the chat, so to everyone, just post this in here, and I'll try to find the video link in a second. Here we go. That's a demo video on YouTube. That is, if you paid attention in today's presentation, I'm not so sure if you will gather much additional knowledge by watching the video. But anyway, it would be great if that could end up in the meeting notes for today. So if people want to see that, then they can easily find it.
Yeah, I will take care of that. Does anybody else have any questions for Philip regarding his tool? Since no one else has any other questions on the ADT Find and Replace tool, does anybody have any questions or issues they'd like to discuss other than politics?
Yeah. Oh, I see in the chat there was a question regarding the top 10 biggest orders result doesn't show an element. And that is simply because there was no element inside the object, but it was the object itself that was found there as a match. And I tried that. Oh, I can resize the chat. That makes it a little bit easier. But I think that were all the questions asked so far. At least I'm not sure if I missed something before my WebEx broke. But well, okay, that's it from me. Thank you again for paying attention and being here and inviting me. And I will still stick around for the general questions session now.
I have one question. Rick Fisher doesn't find internal macros. I don't know how you call that, macros, embedded macros you call it. Do you find that?
Yes, I think so. We can easily try. I know there were a couple of embedded macros showing up already.
So Klaus, you're speaking specifically about embedded macros that are assigned to an event property or a property in the events tab. Is that correct?
Yes.
As opposed to ones that show up in the nav pane.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so here is one. And I hope there is something interesting. And so, okay, there's a last name thing in here. So let's close this. And let's search for last name. And we just need to search in the active object and say find all. So I'm pretty much impressed because here we are. You see the onload embedded macro we just looked at, and I found the term last name in there, and find and replace also finds it. So that is a resounding yes, we do search the embedded macros. And I wasn't sure about that until now.
Thanks a lot.
I also really like this feature of being able to search just the active objects. I'm assuming that entails any active form or table or whatever that's loaded in the window. Is that correct, Philip?
Yes, that is correct. In previous versions, if somebody has one of the 1.0 versions, it was only searching through the top level forms here, but to all top level open forms or reports or tables or whatever. And now in the 1.1 version we released a couple of weeks ago, it also recursively searches through all the subforms inside any top level open form or report.
Yeah, I mean, basically you have that same feature by doing a custom search, because you can highlight which forms or reports you want to search, but being able to pull it up on the fly while you're working, and just say, search the current form and all of its stuff, or the current couple of forms, is really useful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm doing a lot of work on migration projects like ADP, the SQL Server project type that's not supported anymore, like ADP to AccessDB migration projects. And so I get into contact with huge databases that I do not know at all. And in one project I'm currently working on, you open a form and it has like 10 subforms in its control, and each of the tab forms might contain another one or two subforms. So basically you open up one of the main forms in the application and that contains like 20 or 30 other forms as subforms, and even kind of getting all the form names that are in there to filter them by the manual selection process is basically a pain. And just opening up the form and say, I want to search the active object, including all the sub-objects, subforms, and sub-reports, that is so incredibly helpful in that situation. It's unbelievable. I absolutely love it.
Great. Do you can search for the names of the subforms directly? So if you have an open object and you say, show me all the subforms, so that is also...
Yeah, sure. That would work when you go to the custom settings and go to the did something that is a problem. So no. Here we are. If you go here to the properties and select the source object. Here it is. If you search for the source object, then, I see what you're aiming at. You cannot get a list of, like, if you say, I want not really search for something, but I want to have a list of all the source object terms. I love your idea. No, we can't do that at the moment, but I absolutely love the idea. And I had the need a couple of times to say, I'm not really bothered what I'm looking for, but I want to see everything that is in a source object property. So, if you had some naming rules and abbreviate everything with FRM for each form, then you could search for FRM and it will find everything, but not in the way that you say, I'm not searching for anything. I want a list of these property values. Yeah, I will also write that down as a feature request, and I love that already.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. Any other questions or rather other topics? I don't want to take up the whole meeting. It's almost 3/4 of an hour. Maybe someone else has a totally different topic he wants to talk about, because it was supposed to be open Q&A after my presentation.
This is Dale again. I was really hoping that most of the discussion would be on your tool, and that people would ask questions that might raise wonderful ideas in your head for enhancements. That's the way, when I develop, and a couple of add-ins that I've developed, it's been very helpful to present topics or briefings or demos on those subtopics, so that other people can say, hey, what about this and what about that? And all those ideas eventually get incorporated into my to-do list. Whether or not they actually make it into the product or not is another question, but... So Giorgio asks, was the tool made with VBA? So I'm assuming it's written in Access?
No, it's not. It's
Okay.
written in C# actually, and it's a com add-in. That is something I would like to show quickly, because if you go to the database tools and add-ins, you don't see it here, because then are only add-ins written with Access. But if you go to File and Options, then there's another add-in tab, and you see it, this one, and it's called AccessDevTools.addin, because we plan to extend that with other add-ins long-term, and that is basically our shell component that integrates into Access. So it has a rather non-intuitive name if you look for it. But that's where it is supposed to show up, because it's a com add-in in Access.
Any other questions, anybody, about the find and replace, or just any other general access questions? I guess I'll take that as a no. I don't know whether anybody's trying to talk or whether you're all just muted and haven't checked in or not.
Georgia asks if com add-ins are going to be deprecated. I do not know anything of that. And I know for a fact that Microsoft is working on making COM possible inside the new, how is it called? Not the .NET framework, but the .NET Core stuff. So COM in itself is absolutely not going to be deprecated. And COM add-ins inside the Office tool, I don't think so. Microsoft is releasing like the Teams plugin for Microsoft Outlook. That's also a COM add-in, and they are actually working on that and releasing new versions like frequently. So I don't think that COM add-ins will be deprecated in the foreseeable future.
Especially if you think that Microsoft said that the VBA runtime itself will live as long as Office lives or lives. That's Microsoft, at least they promised it. And I think the COM add-ins, which are for third-party people, enormously important, won't be deprecated from that logic, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the VBA development environment is really so tightly connected to COM add-ins. It's another consumer of COM add-ins, but I'm not sure if that is a major factor here.
Okay, good. Does anybody, now that, since nobody has indicated any other topics of discussion today, does anybody have any potential subjects they'd like discussed or briefed during an upcoming meeting? I have one of my fellow MVPs that I think is going to talk about, I think the term he's using is database standardization. Basically, he's been dealing with this, having to migrate several other people's applications into newer versions of Access, and he's found lots of naming convention violations, or what he considers to be violations of his naming convention standards. So he's written a number of, I don't know whether it's a single app or whether it's just a number of different individual utilities procedures for doing some of that process. A lot of that, in my mind, would be very similar to what we're doing with find and replace. But the first step is finding where you have tables or other objects or variables that are named different than what you would normally use, and then replacing them as appropriate. And I'm interested in seeing what he's doing along those lines. It may relate very much to what Philip talked about at the very beginning of the briefing, when he said people will tell you, hey, it's easy, just just write this loop and loop through all of these the objects, but as Philip said, you can't just loop through an object. You got to loop through the object, and then you have to loop through all of its properties, and then you have to look at the code behind the object, and all of those types of things. So I think the January presentation is going to be from this other MVP friend of mine, and but I'm still looking for topics for February or March that anybody might be interested in. I see Giorgio's how to use tree views in Access 64-bit. That would be a good topic. I'll have to see if I know anybody who's actually used the. Believe there's a new COM control that has a tree view basically the tree view control in it, but I have not had a chance to use that if that's correct. Philip, don't you have a tree view product as well that or was that? I'm trying to remember who that was.
No, I'm thinking of, there is another German guy, he's Thomas Foch. He built a tree view just with Access and selling it as a component. And I think Kevin, what's his last name?
Probably Bell. He's in our meeting. Actually.
Yeah, exactly. Kevin Bell. He also built a tree view tool that it's distributing commercially.
And he just unmuted himself. Kevin, what do you have to say for yourself?
I did. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
It's pretty early where I am. Let's see. So point of clarification, I didn't create the tree control. I used a third party.
Okay.
Jan Carl Peterson. Let's see. I'm going to look for there's the link. And it's very good. I evaluated Thomas's looking at ActiveX controls. And I found this one was by far the fastest, and it basically is just dropping in, just paste it in the there we go. The file, there's 164-bit and 32-bit. You basically set a reference to that, and then you have to play a little game with the subform, and that's it. And then there's no ActiveX controls to register. Performance is, in my opinion, twice as fast or more from the traditional COM addins.
Great, thanks for that. So, Giorgio, what you would like to see is some sort of a presentation on how to use something along those lines, or is just the link that? Tell you what, Giorgio, take a look at the link that Kevin left and. Get back to me and see, and if you're still interested in getting a presentation on something along that, maybe I can get a hold of the company and have them do the presentation for us.
Yeah, and I would like to add a quick note to that. If you already have an existing application using the Microsoft Common Controls tree view inside it and want to put that into a 64-bit environment, now, the tree view controls of Microsoft are now also available in a 64-bit edition. I just posted a link into the chat to one of my pages where I talk about that. So if you got an existing solution, then this is probably the best way to just quickly move it over to 64-bit without doing any re-implementation work there.
Yeah, I thought I'm glad you looked that up. I thought I had heard about that COM control object being or DLL being replaced, and that I thought the tree view was in there as well. So that's good news. That's great. Anybody else have any questions or subject matter for next presentation? I really do need to get a camera on my web so that I can show my ugly face. After presentations or before them. All right, in that case, I'll close the meeting. I appreciate you being with us today, and helping us out today, Philip. And I really look forward to taking Find and Replace and using it in my app development process. So thank you very much.
Dave, thank you very much for inviting me here. And everybody else, thank you very much for being here.
Signing off.